Welcome to our webinar for the CMOOC and for the Escalate Mobile Learning Special Interest Group and for the SOTL Research Cluster. Joining me tonight, we have Raj. Raj has just had a fight with a lawnmower. He tells me he did it himself, but yes, I'm not quite sure, but anyway. Yes, it's very lovely, Raj.
Thanks, Tom.
Unfortunately, most of our normal guests can't make it tonight. Oh, Amanda's just joined us. Excellent. So we are joined by Amanda. Awesome. And she's looking for some headphones. There we go.
Hello.
Yes, come in, Amanda. Yes.
Ah.
Good to have you here.
Hi, Raj.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Lovely to see you. Good.
You too. Yeah. I've been away. I've been on leave until yesterday, moving house. So
okay.
Very exhausting.
Well, it's good to have you here tonight. I was just saying to Raj that unfortunately we got excuses from everyone else because they're all Ian from Coventry in the UK stuck in traffic. Steve is on the way to the physio. He's done something, and Todd is otherwise engaged tonight as well. So it's the three of us, so we can have a discussion about teaching, learning, and assessment, which is week 3 of CMOOC. So I'm going to go into screen sharing and just share a bit of what we're going to go over. We can just sort of discuss it. Now,
Sure.
Amanda's a bit of an expert in this because she's done this several times already. And Raj is getting into it. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a little bit of activity on the Google Plus community this week, which is nice. So we've had a fair bit of activity from some of the Australian participants, particularly from Vanessa Todd. She's posted her visitor resident map, and she's done it in a unique way as kind of concentric circles rather than as a grid. So that's quite interesting. I think my main feedback would be that the blue makes it a little bit difficult to read. But yeah, really nice. And good to have Paul join us all the way from Nelson.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Amanda.
Welcome, Paul. And Paul, let me introduce you because you probably haven't seen him before. Raj.
I've seen Raj before and listened.
Yes, it's hard to forget that haircut.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good, thanks, Raj. Yeah.
Lovely to have you.
Thank you. You too. You're in which country are you in?
I'm very much in Auckland.
Oh, you're in. Okay. All right.
Yes, Raj is actually our latest member to join C-Flat at AUT. So anyway, Paul, we were just sort of getting started on week 3, and what is week 3, which is, and we're just reviewing the contributions in Google Plus. So let's just continue with that, and then we'll jump into sort of discussion.
Good, sure.
So yeah, it's been a bit of stuff posted there, which is great, and a fair bit of sort of commenting and feedback, which is nice. Vanessa also did a little video intro, which was very nice. She used Adobe Spark to do that, so it's pretty cool. And I know that Ian Upton from Coventry is a bit of an Adobe Spark expert, so they might be able to give each other some hints. So anyway, week 3, if we flick to the WordPress site, which gives us the overview, and let's just reload that because it's stuck on week 2 there. On series 2, week 3, there we go. So this week's topic is exploring learning, teaching, and assessment. And as I was briefly discussing with Raj before everyone else joined, it's probably the easiest part of the portfolio because it's the part that everyone does all the time, unless you're more in a support role. You know, so perhaps myself and Raj, and in this case Paul. So 3 out of the 4 of us are more in support roles, but Amanda is definitely on the floor lecturer. But those who are in more support roles, I guess you talk about how you support other people that support lecturers or other academics in developing learning, teaching, and assessment. So that's kind of the role of the support person in collaboration, maybe doing some guest workshops, etc. So what we're looking at this week is obviously this webinar. There was the suggestion for people to get together and brainstorm ideas for an assessment that they could work on collaboratively and then share and put into the project bank. And explore the scholarship of technology enhanced learning, and just a bit of a plug for our symposium, which is coming up in February. Submissions for that are open, Paul, so it'd be great to get you to submit something for that, and from your team, and come up and present to us all the awesome stuff you're doing down in Nelson. Bring some of that sunshine up. So just a bit of a plug for that there. So the two key elements of this part of the portfolio is demonstrating an understanding of teaching, learning, and or assessment processes, and an understanding of your target learners. So these are the two subsections that you need to describe your activity that you've done, provide some evidence, and of course how you've used educational technology to enhance this or to enable you to do stuff you couldn't do without it, and then to reflect on that. What was the impact on your practice, your colleagues' practice, and your students? So I think the easy way to do something around understanding your target learners is if you ever do any surveys. If you do surveys of your students, then that's an easy way to get feedback, and an easy way to provide some evidence as well, is to perhaps link to some anonymous student survey feedback, which you perhaps have used to inform your teaching practice, and get feedback on what students thought of in a particular assessment, and how that then impacted maybe the redesign of an assessment, etc. So the key, as always, is for any part of your portfolio is the reflection process. And I was suggesting again that you reflect on your blog, your portfolio, whatever that may be. A lot of people use WordPress. You don't have to, of course, but we suggest you use WordPress, and start a blog post about teaching, learning, and assessment. So that's kind of week 3, which, as we sort of said, it's relatively easy. I guess it's just trying to think of some interesting and innovative stuff to really share as part of that portfolio. So, Amanda, what have you sort of thought you might put into your portfolio?
I think one thing I could look at was how we've structured assessments in the past in the media and communications paper, which is very much about focusing more on formative assessment and getting the students to repeat the sort of same material, but adding to it and taking on our and peer feedback, which seems to be quite unusual method for them. At the beginning, they don't really get that we're asking them to present work again and again and again, and then in the feedback right at the end, a couple of students said, "Oh, I've got it now. If other papers did this, then I would actually learn a lot more, because I'm building rather than doing an assignment and then ticking it off and sort of setting it aside." So that's sort of coming to mind. The other thing I think moving forward is that we've been using Google Community, and the students are still using it to communicate with us and with each other, and to post things, even though we finished teaching back in June, and so they're wanting to get together before the end of the year to look at reflecting on how they're using their learning into the future. And so I think that's going to be an opportunity to maybe get them to have some input into assessment, and whether they could see some ways of enhancing what we're doing.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. I guess the other thing to really reflect on there, obviously, is the fact that Google have announced they're going to close down the public version of Google Plus, which is unfortunate because it's being used quite heavily in education, just apparently not anywhere else. But that's a bit of a shame, so we have to look around for other tools or pay up for the enterprise version. So that's quite an interesting thing to sort of discuss, I think, around if you are using social media in teaching and learning. You're very much at the mercy of the provider, because you're not paying for their service. What they're getting from you is your data, and so they can close their service whenever they feel like it. And Google certainly have a history of doing that.
I think we've tried to really use that point in when we're teaching media and communications, we're sort of trying to get students to reflect on not the nuts and bolts of, how to use Twitter or how to use Google Plus, but how do I learn? What are the hurdles or what are the methods that I need to be able to grasp this new piece of technology? Because this is going to just happen all the time, that we're going to have these tools, like it happened with BAM User last year, and I almost just couldn't cope. But yeah, I think these things, so it's about sort of that being agile and flexible and anticipating that you're always going to have to be learning, taking on a new tool, whether it's assessment or sort of a learning and teaching tool. So it's a good thing in a way.
Yeah, I think people need to become comfortable with change because it's inevitable. I probably lost count of the number of different blogging platforms that we've used over the years that have closed down, but I guess you try to make good choices of platforms that will, be around for a while, and you kind of think that perhaps a Google type of platform, they've got money coming out of their ears, so it's not a money issue, it's just more of a sort of philosophical issue for them, although there was that issue of the data breach. But yeah, certainly that's quite a critical learning point and a really good reflection point to bring up, I think. So Paul, what about yourself? What areas do you think you would focus on for your portfolio?
I haven't. Well, I'm actually a student at the moment. I'm doing one master's paper at a time. So I actually have just, while you've been talking, I've had my student hat on, thinking about some of the ways that we've been assessed and some of the things we've done in class, and some have been successful and some not so successful.
I think that's a real sort of a key learning point is, being a student, getting the experience of being a student yourself as a teacher
Amazing.
Is one way to really learn what works and doesn't, isn't it?
Yes, because you have classmates and you can talk to your classmates and find out what's working for them. I've just finished one paper, and it's really interesting that some of the students have said to me, this is the best learning that I've ever done. The students are so excited about this paper we've just done in the way it was structured, in terms of all the students presenting every week. Every week we had to give a presentation, and it just worked really, really well in terms of learning, but the assessment kind of and the assessment of the reflection was kind of an afterthought.
Right. So the assessment didn't really line up with the what they're trying to achieve, you think?
No, it was great in terms of learning, but in terms of assessing our learning, that's the difficult bit, and that's an area that's interested me, because really successful as far as the students are concerned, but not successful in terms of the institute itself. And
I think that's one of the key things with trying to design learning activities and assessments is that whole idea of constructive alignment coming from John Biggs. I think that's a really good concept to sort of get in your head, is that idea of aligning learning activities and graduate outcomes and assessment so they all match together and have the same goals, rather than end up with the assessment not related to what you're trying to actually achieve.
Yeah. So as you know, my role is more in support and technical stuff rather than academic stuff from a teacher's point of view. But I'm gaining it now again from a student's point of view, and maybe by next year for my CMALT portfolio, I'll have some better ideas in terms of this section 3.
Yeah, so I think what would be good would be to sort of capture this experience, reflect on it, and blog about it somehow, or do a little video reflection, so you record it somehow, so that you can then reflect on it later. So the key with creating your portfolio is having that sort of trail of evidence, really. So let's Paul seems to have frozen. His connection's not that great by the looks of it, but
Yeah.
throw it over to Raj.
So
Put you in the deep end, Raj.
well, with my new role, I'm yet to work with academics and sort of assist them and learn from them. However, I do remember in my previous job, we introduced a new assessment which was about their communication skills. And instead of having traditional presentations, we decided to do a me-in-a-minute video. So they had to create a 1-minute video talking about the knowledge, skills, and abilities they have gained from their placement experience. And we thought that students will probably like this assessment because it's more trendy, it's cool, they need to shoot a video. However, there was a lot of anxiety and concern from students, genuine concern. And we sort of ran a workshop around that, and then we also invited the producer who was shooting them in the studio and all that. And then towards the end of the year, when we received the summative evaluations of the teaching, a lot of those students mentioned that although it was nerve-wracking to do that assessment, it was very valuable. We felt so good after doing it. So it's one of those things that that it's uncomfortable for them. However, they can see how it will benefit them, and how they could also walk away with this little 1 minute of the video, which they could use on their LinkedIn or on their CV, or they can send it to their potential employers, because they were talking about who they are in that quick 1 minute and what they have learned from the degree and from this course. And I have also recently seen that there's this growing trend where a lot of people are actually asking potential interviewees to send their quick videos, describing their work and describing themselves. So that way we are sort of preparing them for tomorrow and the workforce, at the same time sort of challenging them as well. So I might reflect a little bit on that maybe, or I might work with some amazing cool people like Amanda in near future, and who knows what I might reflect and what I might write.
Amanda is cool.
Well, I mean, I really resonate, hearing what you're saying, Raj, about having a different style of assessment, because we gave an audio recording, and it was only 90 seconds, and we thought, oh, easy, the user, they'll have their phone, it will be second nature, and the technological anxiety that they faced. But also, I think that they've had, by the time they come to university, most students have had 12 plus years of relatively traditional education, and so even though they sort of think, oh, another boring essay to write, they're sort of comfortable in that place. And so I think that as an educator, even though you might get bad reviews sometimes, you have to pull people out of that place of comfortableness, because the world's moved on, and most of our students, in the health faculty, are not going to be writing essays. And so that's a really great example of sort of creating something that's actually valuable.
I agree with you, Amanda, 100%, that it's traditionally we often use written reports or written essays as a form of evaluation. There are other means as well. There are oral presentation, and then group assignments, and then there are a lot of interesting things which we can bring in. And I think when we initially introduce these things, they can be challenging for students, because we are sort of throwing them in this out of their comfort zone. But that's when the real learning happens, isn't it?
Yeah, and learning is hard. I think it's supposed to be hard, and I think somehow some students are sort of on this pathway that it shouldn't be hard. I got an email from someone this week saying, this paper's so hard. My other papers are so breezy. I'm thinking, no, it's not supposed to be breezy. Yeah. So I think, yeah, like making people not making them uncomfortable, but yeah, I think taking people to a new place is sort of really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as long as we have thought through the support issues and included some forms of scaffolding to get the students there.
Definitely.
You know, so we can't just throw stuff out and expect them to understand the wider implications without making it pretty explicit to them, I think, often. And perhaps that's part of what Paul was sort of talking about before with the issue with the presentations. Perhaps the lecturer just hadn't thought through some of the wider issues and hadn't communicated those that well to the students. Yeah. Well, we've kind of sort of danced around a few of the issues. One of the things that I quite like as a tool to reflect on teaching, learning, and assessment is the idea of an ecology of resources, and sort of looking at what are the core aspects of the graduate outcomes, and then trying to map those to, you know, what tools are going to help you do that. And so that's that idea of an ecology of resources is like a group of tools that work together, because there's not one tool that does everything. Unless you know, you like most students and think Facebook is the universe, but there's a lot better tools to do a lot of the things that Facebook does badly. So having an ecology, a collection of tools that does maybe one part of the ecosystem well, but they work together, I think is quite a cool idea for designing assessments. So I think we'll sort of wrap it up there. A little bit of a shame that our Northern Hemisphere people couldn't make it tonight, but that's okay. I'm sure they'll be on board for next week. We did definitely feature Raj's new hairstyle, and you know, it was worth turning up just for that. So yeah, let's sign off, and hopefully a few people watch this and get to you know, maybe they could rate Raj's hairstyle. And, we'll see how we go with viewers for this particular video. So look, we'll see you all next week.
All right.
We're into week four. There we go, week 4 of the CMOT CMOOC, and it's hopefully we'll see even more activity next week as well. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.